Hello and welcome to the video. We all know that Jordan Peterson reads a lot. Here are some recommendations that he has given from the books that he has read. Let's take a look at the top 5 books Jordan Peterson suggests you read. As a disclaimer, these books are in no particular order. Starting this list is a book that Jordan Peterson describes as deep. As you'll see shortly, he didn't even hesitate to give his answer. He seems to be in an online meeting with someone who asked him this question.
So my last question is, since it is the holiday season now, and hopefully young people will be inspired to read a bit over the break, what book, give me 2 books that you can recommend to the high schoolers that will be listening to this.
Okay. Well, I would say high school kids, a really good book is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. That's a very deep book, and I would say it's an accessible book, and it's very thoughtful, and so I think that's a great one.
As you saw, he really recommends this book without a second thought. He continues on to speak about the book and then gives a big reason why this book is a good read, among it being accessibility or ease of reading.
Speaks to the, what would you say, to the high value and potential integrity of the human psyche and soul, and the importance for individuals, including high school students, to get their acts together and to figure out how to organize themselves and to contribute to the world. So that's what I would recommend.
Great choices. I love all the books you just mentioned.
The next book we will talk about is a very famous and popular book by Russian author Fyodor Dostoevsky. The book is, of course, Crime and Punishment. He goes on and describes the main character and why you should read the book.
And so I would say, with regards to fiction, if you take someone like Dostoevsky, who I think is a favorite of mine, by the way, I would highly recommend that you read all 5 of his great novels, because they are unparalleled in their psychological depth. And so if you're interested in psychology, Dostoevsky's the person for you. Tolstoy's more of a sociologist, but Dostoevsky, man, he gets right down into the bottom of the questions and messes around. Transformative reading. Anyway,
Peterson goes on and describes the book. He then tells us what the author Dostoevsky wanted to do with the book and the main character Raskolnikov.
You know, in Raskolnikov, what he wanted to do was set up a character who had every reason to commit murder. Every reasonable reason, philosophically, practically, ethically even. Well, so Raskolnikov goes and he kills the old lady with an axe. And it doesn't go the way he expects it will, because what he finds out is that post-murder Raskolnikov and pre-murder Raskolnikov are not the same people at all.
In this clip, we see Jordan Peterson giving a speech of sorts. And in this clip, we see Jordan Peterson likes this book so much that he does not like to think of it as just a book, but as something more. Take a look for yourself.
Think of it as a book is a really foolish framework, you know, because this is what a book is when people think about a book. You know, it's like a material entity. It's 8 inches high and 6 inches wide and 2 inches thick and weighs a pound, and it's made out of paper, and it's between two covers, you know, and that's a materialist. That's the a priori sort of axiomatic.
In this next part, he goes on to describe why we shouldn't address this book as a book and what he thinks the book actually is.
Beyond Good and Evil isn't a book at all. It's a series of bombs, and each sentence is a bomb, and each sentence blows things up that people don't even know exist. And so one of the things with this sentence, for example, here's how he's conceptualizing a human being. So the first thing he talks about is that there are fundamental impulses in human beings. Okay, so that thing.
In this 4th clip, he gives us a list of authors while explaining why we should read these books.
Fyodor Dostoevsky, Leo Tolstoy, who I think perhaps the greatest novelist the world has ever seen, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, another great Russian novelist. I don't know what it is about the Russians, but man, they produce writers that are incomparable. Alexander Solzhenitsyn wrote a book called The Gulag Archipelago, where he analyzed the Soviet prison camp system that arose after the Leninist revolution in the second decade of the 20th century. And details in absolutely precisely how the tenets of Marxism, the Marxist tenets that are supposed to free everyone and change the world, produced legislation that was absolutely murderous in its consequences.
As you can see, the book he recommended was The Gulag Archipelago. He recommends this book because he says it is essential to this moment in time. He advises that we do not engage in discussions regarding the topic of Marxism unless we have read this book by Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
Because you'll hear people who are basically Marxists say things like, well, true Marxism never existed, and Solzhenitsyn took that argument apart in the mid-70s And the Gulag Archipelago was an intellectual bomb. It demolished any credibility that Marxism had to intellectual respectability. You have to read the book. The book is about the central issue in our culture at the moment. If you don't read it, you're not informed. You can't participate in the debate except as a puppet. And so I wouldn't recommend participating in this debate.
The final book he recommends we read may come as unexpected. As you will see, the reason he uses to defend his point is rather different.
And the books that have influenced the largest number of other books are the canonical books. And the ultimate canonical book in the West is clearly the biblical corpus, because it's influenced virtually everything. And so you have to know it, because it's implicit in everything else. And so you start there, and so you have that. You have that knowledge, at least to some degree. And it gives you the foundation, the metaphorical foundation, the conceptual foundation, the mythical foundation.
As you heard, he recommends reading the Bible because there are so many works of literature in the West that are influenced directly or indirectly by the Bible. He then goes on to explain how reading this first can open up other books.
Now Shakespeare opens up to some degree, and now Milton opens up to some degree, and Dante opens up to some degree. And you think, well, why should those open up? And the answer is, well, as the social constructionists claim, you're at least in part a historical creature. Well, then those books are about you. The patterns in those books are the patterns of your perceptions and your actions. And without understanding them, then you don't know who you are, and you can't guide yourself properly.
And there you go, the top 5 books that Jordan Peterson suggests you read. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you don't miss our next video. While you're at it, why not check out one of the other videos on your screen right now.